I found my way home across the Grand Mirage.
Oh, the applause, the applause. Am I dressed up? Yes, because it's New Year's Eve. It's New Year's Eve. Is it actually New Year's Eve? No, no, I'm totally pre-taping. I'm totally pre-taping this. But it's New Year's Eve now, and I dressed up because it's New Year's Eve now. Or as I like to say, it's New Year's Eve somewhere. All right. Well, hi. I am Allison Arngrim, and this is the Allison Arngrim Show. And some of you may know me as Evil Nellie Olson. But luckily tonight I am Allison Arngrim, and this is the Allison Arngrim Show. And here on the Allison Arngrim Show, we like to talk about things that make us feel good. The movies and the TV shows that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. And I have one of those. Oh, so I was like, yeah, I have one of my friends on. Woo! I was like, and he's been on the show before. But it's awesome because when he was on the show before, he was just starting his online acting workshop and a bunch of stuff. And now it is all exploded into like successful stuff, which we love. We love. And he's hilarious. And it's New Year's. And okay, so I did his show and now he's doing my show and it's all very complicated. Patrick Labyorteaux.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your studio audience is far larger than mine.
They're very, very raucous, very raucous. And so, yeah, so we have Nellie Olson and Andy Garvey in the house again.
Right, and we're not cheating this time.
No cheating. So wait, so we pre-tape one, which will be your New Year's Eve show where you interview me.
Yes, this is like a double. We're a Marvel team up. You're going to be on my
so
New Year's Eve show, and here I am on your New Year's Eve show.
What time does your New Year's Eve show go on?
We go live, or not live. We publish at 12:01 in the morning. So New Year to 12:31, 12:01, right in the morning. So you get it when you wake up. Basically, you get it.
Oh, and then I'll go at 5 as you're getting dressed to go out to the party.
Perfect.
Yeah,
you can watch us talk about us all day long.
All day. It is an all-day Allison, Andy Garvey, Nellie Olson marathon. Yes. So this is fun. So yeah, the last time I had you on, you were just starting your whole online acting school, actors workshop thingamajigger. Yep. And I think you had one student. And yep. I think you got a second one because somebody watched the show and called you.
Exactly.
You were like, awesome, it worked. You now have multiple classes. You were like, hey, I'm booked up, man. I got classes. You got classes. You got people. What happened?
Well, the whole idea of getting into all the different social medias was to advertise the school, workingactorsschool.com. And it seemed to have worked out well. People got a hold of it. People understand it. The idea, what I love about it is it's online, obviously. The whole idea is we have a youth class. It's one of my favorite classes for kids. And we have a kid from Connecticut, San Diego, Colorado, and Seattle in one class. And they're all amazing. And you would just never be able to do that. I came up with this slogan, as one does. You don't have to be in Hollywood to train in Hollywood. And it literally is true. And especially now where we're all sending in our auditions anyways, it's almost like you don't even have to be in Hollywood to work in Hollywood.
You barely have to be on Earth.
Yeah, and have a phone. And it's pretty cool. And so, yeah, now we've expanded. We have a master's class on Monday. We have a youth class on Tuesdays, and we have an adult acting class on Wednesdays. And then I fill out the rest of the time with one-on-ones, where it's just like if you want to deal with a particular scene you're working on or an audition, or you just want a private class and you don't want to have the dynamic of other people, the one-on-ones are great. But I like the classes. As far as a teacher to an actor, I think working with other actors, when you're watching, you learn a lot more because you can see quietly in your own private place, oh, I make that mistake. I see what it looks like now. Or, oh, I never thought of that. I'm going to try that. And so it causes a lot more synapses to fire.
I've always like when I've taken classes, even online with a group, even when I've taken my French lessons that I've taken because I was taking them in the room and then I took them online. But there was a bunch of people from all over LA all logged in, and it was great because we could, have little conversation. They'd break us into groups to work on
Uh-huh.
things, and there we were. And it was great. We met all these people, and I'd go, God, your living room is great. Where do you live? That is awesome. And we, and it was lovely, and we developed relationships, and you also could sit there and go, wow, okay, she did not pronounce that word right. That's the tough one. That's the one we
Right.
all screw up. Okay, let's. And you knew. And then if you felt you were terrible, the other people in the room were like, no, that wasn't that bad. And then you see them screw up, and you go, okay, when you're all by yourself. And that's the problem is now, pandemic and post pandemic, we're all alone a lot. We all got stuck doing things, like suddenly the auditions became online. The interviews, here we all are online.
Yeah.
Everything became online. You wound up getting, talk about being in your head. So the classes, if they're too much one-on-one, you kind of go, I have no idea if anybody else likes what I'm doing or if this works with the.
Well, as an
Whereas,
actor,
yeah,
when you're sending in an audition, the worst part of the new world of sending in auditions is there's no feedback. You don't even get the gentle feedback of a change in breath or seeing them spark up to something you're doing or a laugh. You're working alone. And I guess the benefit, well, it is a benefit. You can do your scene until it's exactly the way that you want it so that you know you're giving them the performance that you want to give. But there's no feedback, and it's so frustrating.
and they won't even call. So your agent, if I get the agent calls, mine, she calls and goes, well, and just to even get anybody on the phone to go, yes, we saw it. Yeah, yeah, we liked it. It's like a huge ordeal to even get that out of,
It's like
beat that out of
screaming into
anybody,
the abyss. You don't even know.
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes if she knows them, she's like, okay, I got them to call me back and go, yes, they actually watched it and they liked it. But how you get nothing. Now, of course, the other scary thing, as you said, you can do it as many times as you need to, but that can be a dangerous trap to fall into. Yeah, you're not in your head. The 37th take. Well, that was great. I'll send that in. And what are you going to do if you get the job?
Well, and here's the thing, though, the reality, right? Exactly. You don't know. But I have a student, I won't, yeah, I haven't given anything away. I have a student who does exactly that, does too many takes and sends it in, obsesses over it, and it becomes something that is in an actor's head, okay, if I just do this one last thing, then I'll be hired. And it's not like that. As a producer, in fact, we found one of our main cast members for the show See Dad Run from a self tape. But at that time, it was because he was in New York and we brought him out and we physically auditioned him and we brought
Right.
him in the room. But from the self tape, the reality is, and this was the best acting lesson I ever learned, and here it is for free. I learned it as a producer. It doesn't matter what you do in the audition process. If you walk in and the people think that you're the character, then they're either on your side or they're not on your side. And as a producer,
Boom.
someone would walk in and go, "Oh, this guy looks great," and you're watching him and you're like, "Okay, great, bring him back." Or someone walks in and you're just like, "No, he's not right," and it has nothing to do with you. It
You
has
could
to
be
do with
freaking brilliant. You could be Meryl frickin' Streep, but if they go, she doesn't look like the people we hired to play her parents and her sister, and it's in the movie, and it's
right.
they
We
don't
had.
care.
I'll share a name. I brought in Andy Dick, who is one of my favorite performers of all time. I know he's personally has issues, and that's a separate
Kind of
thing.
cuckoo, but
As a
yeah,
performer, I find him hysterical. When we were
nice.
bringing him in, he came in to read for us, and his performance was wonderful. He was hysterical. But as a producer, we thought of our two leads that he was going to be working with, and we're like, but they're not going to match up as far as level. And so again, the actor came in and killed it, but it had nothing to, he didn't get the job because it had nothing to do with his talent. And so as an actor, going back to that, it's really, really an amazing lesson to learn because for all of us who are doing those self tapes over and over again, sometimes that first take with the energy and the looking for the lines or whatever, sometimes
Mhm.
it's a disaster. I get it. But sometimes if you get through the take and you like it and you go, oh, that's good. The reality of making it exponentially better and changing it into a job getting interview, it doesn't work like that.
No, I think you're torturing yourself unnecessarily because, like, one thing's also you get actually because you get more into your head, more you torture yourself, and then the final product is probably kind of unnatural and you're probably a little more real, maybe in the first
Right.
one. I know finally, doing stuff by myself. I was like, this is a nightmare. So I would go to one of the many fine services in our city where, for a tiny fee, and a very tiny fee, it's a place I found, a nice man will set up the camera in really nice lighting and he will read it with you and actually read it with you well. And so that you have, and the great part is there is someone there. So you do like 2 takes and they go, well, I don't know what the hell else you were planning on doing. If you want
Right.
to, we could do it. You still have time in the 30 minutes you booked, but you do know that those 2 takes were totally, like, completely fine. And you go, great, send them. And you get, because there's someone there to go, step away from the camera. You are done.
Yeah, and
And
unfortunately, as the
uh,
older actor, as us older actors, that's what you got when you audition with the casting director. You got that interaction with a human being, and you're not spending any, no matter how little it is, any money to audition for a part. You might spend gas, you might be saving money on driving if it's like now that we don't drive to Santa Monica on Friday at 5 o'clock.
oh my God, and Park. But
Right,
what now? The Screen Actors Guild, to their credit, the Meryl Streep Studio, blah blah blah. They have a place that you can book an appointment for free, as a union member, for free, where you can come in and they have a reader and you can go tape your audition. So you don't actually have to pay the $30 or the $29.99 or the $10 or the $50 or wherever the hell you're going in LA. So there is that, thank God, because paying to audition seems wrong somehow ethically, even though I've done it.
yeah.
The other one is I was at a SAG workshop, another free thing. I love free SAG stuff. I go, I pay my union, just wait, there's free stuff. I feel like I'm getting my nickels worth somehow. If I take a workshop or a class or go to a thing, I got something out of my dude. So I go to everything. And they had a workshop and they had a couple casting people and a couple directors, and they said, the tape stuff is driving us insane. We used to be able to audition this many people, but now it's tapes. We go, oh, we can see more. Yes, but now this means everyone is sending a tape. So like 8
Right.
million videos. How do we watch them all? She said, we feel bad because we're watching 5 seconds and going next. And, maybe the guy did some better. She said, but what's really making us nuts is some of you people doing the 37 takes at home until it's perfect. Okay, so we got a take. It was brilliant. We hired the guy. He shows up on set. He can't do it in 1 take, 2 takes. And we were being really cool where we didn't expect people to be all 1 take wonders. We were cool. Around the 7th take, we realized, and then we had to talk to them. He needed like 37 takes to do anything because that's what he'd done it at home. He took like a million takes, and they're like, yikes.
Wow.
We don't know how many times this person did this to get this. In the room, we know that once they can do it, feedback, they can
And they
two
always,
take, three
that's
take.
exactly it. They'll always give you, okay, try it like this. And I always tell my students, if you ever get feedback, that means they like you and they want to see if you take direction or if you're malleable, if you have some skill. And that's something that you just, again, don't get with
They
them.
don't get. So yeah, they said we get these people and they need all those takes. They can't do it in 2 or 3 takes. So we're like, yikes, what have we done? And she said, and I've also she said, I also had the experience where we get someone, we didn't get to meet them. We hired them based on performance, but now I'm stuck on location in the middle of nowhere in New Zealand or Brazil for 3 months with someone I can't stand. And she said, we don't know. If we have people in the room, we can at least get some idea, have a conversation, get a vibe that maybe I don't want to be trapped in a
Yeah.
bunch of mobile homes in a motel room in, Yugoslavia
Well,
for
I had
three
a
months.
friend who was a casting director, and her first go-to was to talk to her assistant outside and find out how they were in the waiting room, how they treated people, how they acted when they walked in, versus because obviously a casting director is going to get the best version of yourself, hopefully, and
And
the
they're often
assistant is
people
going to
are
get
they're
the worst.
terrible. They'll be terrible out in the room. They're mean to the other actors. They're like, I hate that these people suck. I don't really want to be in this. Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. The spies. And they said, yeah, they said, and it's driving us nuts. They said, but they said the studios, they won't pay for the space. They said they won't give us the little room on
Right.
the lot in an office and a guy with a camera. They won't let us do that. And then, okay, we got to go rent space. Oh, what are we going to do? A hotel room? Nobody wants to come to that. So We're like, what? They said it's awful. We got to like rent a place that isn't a hotel room, so don't creep people out. And but the studio won't pay for anything, so we have to like go out of our budget if we want to see anybody in person. So this is a nightmare. And she said, yeah, between the closet terrible person and the 37 take guy, they said we would prefer to go back to live auditions, big time. So it's painful for everyone. These things.
Yeah, it is look, you and I have been in the business long enough to have remembered all the different eras of this. I remember auditioning before they had video cameras, where you
Oh, yeah.
literally they just had they had a stack of 8x10s on the table and they were taking notes because they couldn't refer back to a videotape. And then we started auditioning on videotape, and then it was a different thing. But yeah, I mean, there's been a whole progression of how this is. Hopefully we will get back to a more analog version of it. And again, it goes back to the money. They don't want to pay the casting directors a proper budget to do their job, which was a joke anyways, because if you've ever been on an audition in Hollywood, you're always sitting on a broken chair and there was, maybe a bottle, a sparklets jug for some water, and that was it. I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't like we were walking into some
right.
posh, you know, offices.
It wasn't catered.
No.
But yeah, I think maybe the advice I would give someone have done is go with the first take and just give it up. Because what are you really going to do? You're really going to torture yourself. They're either going to get it or they're not. They're either it's the type
I
thing.
agree with
I
that.
would go with the first
Yeah.
take.
There's been some times if I'm doing a scene, I've had a couple of auditions where they want to see the whole progression of the character. That's changed too. At the very beginning, they would have you do 40 pages, and you're like, oh my God. But there was one interview where it was very emotional. And on the first take, I liked it. And, as an actor, I'm kind of afraid to like engage on these type of things because it's very emotional. And it was on the third take when it kind of clicked in and it was sort
Mm.
of like I connected. But that's something like when you're hitting a baseball or a golf ball, when you hear that ping and you know that you've hit it out of the ballpark. It's not a granular thing of like, oh, I should have gone up on that last line and then I would get the job. But like when you really connect to the material and I got emotional because of the material and it felt right, that's different. But yeah, I mean, it really is sort of a numbers game. I do voiceover, and on voiceover, it's even worse, which it's been like this for a long time, where I called my agent once and I said, how many people, honestly, how many people are auditioning for this role? And it was a big role. And he says, probably about 300. And it's
Jeez.
like, as anyone, how do you go, oh, 54 was good, 3 was good,
Oh,
238 was good. How do you know?
275 was better.
Right. I mean, it's like it just becomes a flood. And I don't know the numbers. You probably do. You're very good at it. But there's like over 100,000 actors in
Yeah,
the
that's right.
guild. And
Well,
then
can
there's
you just sitting there going,
millions
I
of
don't
people
know,
that want to be an actor.
191 and 276. I think it's between those two. I mean, yeah, right.
Right.
How drive yourself insane. Now, of course, we go back to the old audition ways. Okay, there you go, first take. The infamous audition story that I tell over and over at Little House, where I came in, they had all the pages. It was like, we're going to recite the entire freaking episode, and it's for producers. It's Michael and the guys, and I do the thing, and they say, "Do it again. Can you do it again?" And I said, "What do you want me to change?" And they said, "Just read the thing about the house again." In this case, it wasn't like change it. It was that lightning struck? This is a small, she seems, I looked younger than I was. So they're going tiny,
You
small,
looked
China
younger
doll
now.
looking.
You looked younger then. That's interesting.
I looked young. I was 12. I probably looked 9. I was teeny. And
That's
so
funny.
small China doll person sitting on the couch just came in and did this really funny thing. Was that a fluke or did she do that on purpose? So they're like, do it again, and died laughing. And then that was it. So talk about first instinct. And then my father said, don't look at the pages, don't rehearse it again, just go do that. And that worked. That was
Right.
the thing. That was the thing they wanted. What was it? Dean Butler or Almanzo said that someone told him, oh, you're reading from Michael Landon, don't act.
Right.
he said, "What? What? I just got out of school, got a degree in that." And he's like, "No, don't let him catch you acting. No acting. Don't do any acting. And if you do, don't let him see you." And he's like, "Wait, what are you even talking about? What does that even mean?" He's like, "Just," and yeah, it's like the less is more school. And I'm sorry, how did you get the part on Little House again? How your
You know,
audition?
I have two more key roles in my career, and both of them went down pretty much the same. With Little House, I get, as we all did when we were kids, if you're picked up by your mom, then you have an audition
Yeah.
after school. After school, so you get out of school, and if there's mom, then you're going on an audition. And she took me to Paramount, and it was a Wednesday. Yeah, no, it was a Thursday. So Wednesday, I'd watched the bunny episode of Little House, one of your big, huge episodes, right? Bunny in the Race. And I was a big fan of the show. And so I get picked up on Thursday, and mom says, "You have an audition for Little House." And back then, that's all you knew. There was no internet email, there was no anything. You just were going to Susie Suckman's office. They were going to audition you. You'd get there, there'd be some scripts pages, and you'd read those, and that was it. You'd sign in with your name, your talent agent, and your full social
And
security
your
number written
full
out on a piece of
social
paper.
on a pad where all of the people wandering in and out, from the janitor to the actors to the guy refilling the sparklets, can all read your social security number and your name. It's like,
Right, exactly. It's just like, I can't believe we did that. Anyway, so I go to Paramount. I read for Susie. She goes, "Okay, great. Hold on. We're going to take you up to Simi Valley." They put all of us kids into a
that's
big
nuts.
stretch truck, drove us out, and the freeway wasn't built yet, so it
No,
took like
the
an hour and a
118
half.
stopped. It just stopped. The
Right.
118 stopped in the middle of nowhere, and you got out and went, I guess I go this way.
Right. And side story, that's where they shot all of Chips, because it was a closed freeway. So they'd had this whole area where they could shoot Chips at that time. But so they drive us up to to Simi Valley. And it reminded me, remember the movie The Andromeda Strain?
Yes, I love
Where
that.
there's this
Which
great line where they build this huge,
Richard Bull, Mr. Olson is in a drama straight. There, just
oh, that's right. That's
it's one of my
right.
favorite movies, and Richard Bull was in it. So there you go.
So the whole idea of the Andromeda Strain is there's like this huge government facility buried deep in the middle of nowhere. And as they're driving, you just think they're driving like on a farm. And one of the guys is going, "They must have brought in a lot of heavy equipment to hide all of the construction." And you're like going, "What is he talking about?" Because everything was built below ground, but everything looked normal. It was hidden. Well, that's how I felt when I was driving up to the Little House,
Like,
because it
where
was
are we
like
going?
you're driving in the middle of the California mountains. There's no one there. You go up this windy road, and then you come up to this one little hill. And I just kept thinking to myself, "They must have brought up a lot of heavy equipment to hide all the movie people." And you drive past the Little House, you drive past the Garvey house until you get to base camp, which is like at this barn.
The
And
barn, the barn.
they had the honey wagons there, they had catering there, and that's where they had us actors wait. And then they said, "Okay, you're ready to go read." And so then they walk us down the hill, and it's the hill behind the mill, the water mill, right? Where she pushes you down the hill in the wheelchair. And so we're walking down that hill, and you see when you walk down the hill, oh, there's Walnut Grove in its full glory. I'm describing it to you like you've never been there.
But it's mind
Um,
blowing because, yeah, when you come down that hill, there's nothing. There's honey wagons in a barn, which I believe is the barn used in the first Men in Black. The barn was
yeah,
used in
yep,
a lot of stuff. It's the Men in Black alien barn. And so then you come down, but there's nothing. There's nothing. There's the trailers and where you eat lunch. And then you're coming down, you go, "Oh, the mill." And then you come down this road, there's trees obscure, and you walk out and go, wow, I'm in Walnut Grove.
yeah.
It's
And
so
so I
weird.
walk out, and I'm in the middle of Walnut Grove, and I'm looking around, and in the middle of Walnut Grove is the big oak tree. And there was Michael Landon dressed as Paw. And it was so weird because it was like, again, like every studio backlot is designed so that once you're in the middle of the set, you can't see anyone. So you can shoot the camera wherever you want. But now we're literally in the middle of the California mountains. You're not seeing anything. If you didn't see the errant plane go by, you would swear you're in the 1880s. And then I turn around, and there's Michael Landon under the walnut tree or the oak tree, and I'm like, "Holy shit, this is crazy." And they go, okay. And so they kept us by the mill, and then each kid would go up and meet with Michael Landon and read. And I tell this story, and it's like people don't understand what the weird thing about Michael Landon was is he was a star of unparalleled like luminance. He was Michael Landon from 50 feet away. His
Yeah,
hair, his tan, his muscles, his
the teeth,
smile, his
the smile.
energy, everything was like it screamed star. But the closer you'd get to him, the more like it was like he was your best buddy. It was weird. It was like how he could make that happen. So I went in, I read, I came back, the other kids read, then he gathered everybody, and I happened to be standing next to him, and he had his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, "Okay, everybody." It was a Thursday. He goes, "Okay, we're gonna think about all of this, and we'll let you guys know." And everyone said thank you, and I looked up and I said thank you, and he holds onto my shoulder, he leans down and goes, "You stay here." And so I'm like, "Oh, this is good. This is probably a positive idea
I'm
that's going to
being
happen."
kidnapped. What?
So everybody walks back up the hill. I stand there and he goes, "Well, you got it, kiddo." And I was thrilled, but it was like my investment in being on a TV show for Little House had been 3 or 4 hours. I'd been in school like 4 hours ago. And in my head, because I was a character actor kid who continuously went up for different parts, this was a guest star. No one told me what it was because, again, you're a kid and no one's telling you anything. And
Oh,
it was happening so quick. And they go, okay,
but
well, we'll
that
put you in the
happened
wardrobe.
that happened to every Charlotte Stewart didn't know that it was the regular Miss Beadle thing. She thought it was a one-off because she had played the teacher on Bonanza and Gunsmoke and
Right.
like every show she'd come in and do the school marm thing, and she came in, she didn't even know she got there, and everyone's in school marm drag, and she said I was in a tie-dye t-shirt, and she had no idea what the heck was happening, and she said I thought it was one episode. So she went in, she kills it, and then they go, no, it's like 4 years because you're the teacher was being, she had no idea what she gotten herself into. Yeah, they didn't tell her, they didn't tell her a damn thing.
That's exactly what happened to me. So that was Thursday. So Wednesday, I watched the episode. Thursday, I auditioned. They put me in wardrobe Thursday night. They said, okay, be back here at 7:30. Or actually be back at Paramount. I start work at Paramount at 7:30 on a Friday. So now Wednesday, I'm a fan of the show. Friday, I'm in the barn set with Missy, Melissa Sue, Robin and Rachel, and myself, reacting to a bunch of wolves because it was the episode Wolves,
Ooh.
where, yeah, where they're attacking us. And again, my parents, no one had told me. I was with an agent by the name of Iris Burton, who is a famous, like, just this famous crazy 70s kid agent, right? Her son Barry was in Saturday Night Fever and she
Oh my
handled all the big TV stars of but she wouldn't talk to you as a kid. It was just weird. It was like, so my parents were kind of finding out, but I wasn't finding out. Meanwhile, I'm sitting next to Melissa Gilbert, Missy, we could talk about it later, but the stories about Melissa Sue Anderson were absolutely true. She was just like the wall of China, or like the Iron Curtain. She was like she would smile, and then that was it. You knew that you weren't
God.
talking to her. But Melissa, on the other hand, I started asking her all these questions about Little House, and like, and then this, and then when you found the Confederate money, and then with the money in the race. She goes, "Look, dude, you're on the show. Just chill out. I'll answer all your questions, but like slow
You
it down."
you work
And so
here
it's like
now.
at the end of it, at the end of the episode, here I am. I'm saying goodbye. I'm shaking hands. I'm being the good little actor, saying goodbye to everybody. And Miles, the AD, goes, "What are you talking about, Magoonahan?" He started calling me Magoonahan.
Magoonahan.
That was, yeah, my nickname from Miles. He gave all the kids nicknames. And so, Magoonahan, where are you going? And I'm like, well, it was a pleasure working with you all. And he goes, well, here's your script. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, for the next episode, you're in the next episode. And I
You live
didn't
here
know.
now.
Yeah. So that's how I
You
found
live here now. You live here now. This is your
out.
home. You're not going up. But wait, you left the just okay. So this is a weird thing again. The kid actors and the bizarre things for children. You were in school. You left school. Your mom picked. Remember, no cell phone, so nobody could call you at school and tell you had an audition. It's like, surprise! You walk out of school. Oh, I was going to go somewhere else, but I guess I'm not. And you get in the car. So you go to the audition, and normally that's a set time period process. You go to the audition, you do the audition, you get back in the car, you go home, you have milk and cookies, and da da da. So instead, you got in the car, you went to the department, and then Simi Valley is far away. from
Yeah.
Paramount. It's not down the road. It's a long way. And if
Yeah.
traffic, and remember there was no, the 118 didn't go anywhere, it's almost an hour. It's a long freaking way. So you're in a van with strangers and you're being kidnapped. And then they keep you basically. And then you wind up at Paramount and they're like, yo, you live here now. You were like Shanghai. What was it? What did you were kidnapped into this role?
Yeah, we had our moms, but again, when you think about it, even when we were quote unquote in civilization at Paramount or MGM, there was the set phone, not a set phone. It was the set phone. If you wanted to call the stage, you had one phone. There's maybe a guy answering it. Or if you're a kid, you can't wait for the phone to ring and you answer it, stage 15, where you're answering the phone. And then you could get a hold of, I mean, you could call, is Michael there? Michael would come to the phone. Um,
Yeah, it was for
Rare, but
everybody. The phone
still, I
for
mean,
everybody.
yeah, it was everybody's phone. So yeah, we're up in Simi Valley, and there's no set phone. There was you know Greg Willabin, was that his name? Gary.
Gary. Gary.
Yeah, he would just they would have him go and drive to the nearest phone. They had a phone down the hill somewhere.
The house that's the caretaker's house, or now it's like the
Right.
location scout office when you come down there and you meet with and they take you up. That weird little house at the bottom of the hill, that was where the phone was. It's like a
But it was a weird time where obviously now we're just talking like old people where you didn't have
so very
connections with
different.
people, but you assumed that everyone was fine just because of the pace and schedule of the world at that point. It was like, oh, well, they're on location. I'll talk to them tonight.
Or tomorrow or not. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really weird to be. I mean, people talk about that. Go when we were kids, we went out, we came back when the street lamps went on. I mean, it in showbiz, it was similar. You were cut off, and in See Me, we were totally cut off, and electricity phones is like nothing, and it was very, very, very weird. Now, you enjoyed being on Little House. This is something we all talk about that for child actors, especially when you are like a journeyman character actor kid, which is like what I was doing till I got it. It's like trying to keep getting jobs and oh no, you're going to turn 12, 13, 14, then you're going to be cut off of the kneecaps because they're going to hire 18-year-olds to play and you're going to be dead in the water and what are you going to do and all that. But to get a series where you stay put for like the most awkward years of your
Yeah.
adolescence is gold. And to get on a series where people are like nice to you and not horrible, super duper. So for most child actors, getting a Little House on the Prairie was like winning the lottery.
Yeah. That's what it felt like. It was also because of, like I just explained, the fact that I didn't, it was a rolling understanding of the fact that I was going to be on the show more than once. And then, oh, I'm on it. And then
Where am
later
I?
on, a year later, the season following, they added Albert, who was played by my brother. But prior to that, he had played Michael Landon. So it was sort of like Matt had done an episode, and now I was doing episodes. But for me, it was never, which later on you would have, later on I would experience when you go to audition for something and they have all the stress of like, I could be on this show for 10 years. I could, this could be a life-changing event. There's a lot of stress that never happened with Little House. And then the people there, as you well know, literally, how many people on this show alone have said, oh, the set was like a family. Everything was what, but literally it was, there were just 4 or 5 families that did Little House. There was Michael, he had all his kids on the show.
Yep.
There was me and my brother, there was Melissa and Jonathan. You were joking in an email. You were like the only one that wasn't related to someone on the
Yeah,
show.
everybody because you had all the twins. You had all the twins. Then you had Leslie Landon and Mike Jr. And you had you and your brother. You had Melissa and her brother.
Right.
You had the 87 sets of twins. Like I'm like everybody's related to each other. And then being LA, a lot of people's parents were divorced, and then a
Right.
whole bunch of other people were adopted.
Yep.
And I remember one point me and Annie Marion sitting there and going, I think I may be the only person here who can tell you with some accuracy where both of my parents are at this moment.
Yeah.
Nobody here could tell. Like, where
No.
are your parents? I have no idea. Yeah.
No, it's funny. I just put up a TikTok about working with Catherine McGregor and not knowing it was her. And I put in a scene from the Little House where, from the Little House. God, I'm old. From Little House where you get your restaurant, right? And so it's a picture of me and you. It's like I'm behind you and you're reacting to your mom giving you this restaurant. And so
Worst
in the
gift ever.
background is
Worst
one
gift
of
ever.
is one of the extra kids, right? So I get a message on the TikTok comments from Johnny Musselman's kid who's like, I was in it. I could see myself. It was like all the Johnny Musselman was our dude who did the craft service, right? And so all the crew members had their kids be the
Yes,
extras. So it was
the
like
crew.
literally families were there. So there would be a
all,
guy.
all the crew, the grips, the electricians, the crew's children were in the show.
Right.
So, like, people would say, did the kids act up? No, you're sitting in the schoolroom. Maybe you're an extra, have a small part, but your dad is standing there hanging the lights. Which, seriously, what are you going to do? And
Yeah.
like, now, the children were all, the crew members' children were there. It was after, and then you had people, the guests, or you had, okay, Sean Penn's dad directed a couple episodes, so suddenly Sean Penn's in the show. He's just
Right.
hanging out as blonde kid number three, but he's in the show. It was very bizarre.
Yeah, it was. And also, again, the old person bias. I won't say it was better back then, but I will say it was way better back then. And it was like when you would audition for something, again, when you're there inside the room, you walk into a room filled with kids that look just like you, right? First of all. Nowadays, that's completely different in a room or not a room because everyone can audition for everything, and that's great.
Right,
But at the time, it was just sort of like you knew all the kids that looked like you in Hollywood.
exactly.
And so there were a lot of kids like Stephen Manley or Todd Bridges or the people or the Richards, like all of the Richards sisters. Um,
The Shea brothers, the
right.
how
All
many
these
were
kids that
there?
you knew
How
from
many Shays?
auditions would come in and be on the show. And so you'd see these friends like Ike and Al Eiserman were both on the show. And it's like these were people that I hung out with, and it was sort of like Ike specifically. If you, I mean, I know you know Ike and has done
I
his show.
love it.
Ike has a real thing for Little House because it was like one of the things where he was like, man, if I could only get on Little House, I need a regular gig. And it was like, dude, he was like 12, but it was that feeling, like you're saying, of, wanting that regular thing. And the thing with Little House was for whatever reason, I guess Clint Eastwood still does it. There was the time in movie or TV where people figured it out. Michael Landon would shoot from 7:30 to 5 every day, and in 5 days there was an episode. And we did 24, 26 episodes and maybe throw in a TV movie, Michael. All right. Meanwhile, like while we're having steak and lobster, he's writing the next script on a pad, and he was
Yippers.
making TV like it was going like it was hotcakes. And
Yeah.
nowadays they do a TV show and it's like, we did 8 of them and we're going to be down for 3 years while we figure out and break the next season. It wasn't like that. So there was this idea of you got really good at doing stuff because you did it every day, all day, but then it ended. It wasn't like a stressful thing. That's one of the things I loved about Little House. It was like a
And
job
the
that ended.
speed, the pace with which you work, because I remember, well, it was like the episode, the whole thing of Percival and the marriage thing. He comes bounding into makeup one morning, Michael, and he goes, "You're getting married," ha ha, and like runs out of the room. I'm like, I beg your pardon, what is this announcement? Oh no, and I go, who's going to marry Nellie Olson? And then he comes bounding in, okay, okay, okay. So your character's getting married, and it's really great. He's a little short guy, but he won't take anything off of anybody, and he tells Mrs. Olson to shut, and then he runs away. And then he comes back and goes, oh, 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 and he's Jewish. And then he runs away. I'm like, what is happening? And then I come leave, and it was, MGM where we had the blocks of the wooden dressing rooms in the building.
Yeah.
And I go by, and there's his room, and the door's open, and he's got a big yellow legal pad and a pencil, and that's the left hand thing. And he's furiously scribbling away. And I went, "You're writing this right now, aren't you?" "Yes, yes, I am." I said, "So you're writing, you were like running in until like as the ideas came. You're like in the process of writing this as I speak." "Yeah." "Aren't we shooting this? When are we shooting this?" Like 3, 4 weeks or something ridiculous. I said,
Yeah.
"Will it be? Oh, it'll be done by then." And it was. But there was this pace, like he had a thing because he had all the guys from Bonanza, like, let's all try to get home for dinner. Let's get home at a
Right.
reasonable hour. Let's not go into crazy overtime. We'll start ridiculously early. I mean, there were times in the early days I was there at 4 and 5, but we'll start stupid early, get the great light, get the beautiful sun
Yep.
coming up, and then get the hell out of there. And I was like, great. But it was like, next, and moving on, moving on. Like he knew what he was doing. He knew exactly
When
what I
he
did.
would walk into a set, he'd go, okay, it's something like this, and then we creep over. And that was it. And the crew knew exactly what he wanted. And back in that day, again, we had film stock that was really slow,
Oh,
so we needed lots of light. The cameras were really heavy, so we needed big, heavy dollies. Everything that we did on Little House, you can do with, a panel light and an iPhone,
yeah.
as far as lighting and as far as shooting, and get pretty close to the quality. But back then, just because the technology was different, you had this big crew, but they knew exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it
then
was
later, when I was on
prehistoric.
the show JAG, and our DP won an Emmy. He's a beautiful DP, but Teddy Voigtlander won Emmys, and Teddy Voigtlander and Buzzy Boggs and all these guys knew how to light, but they would do it so economically. But this guy on JAG, I would be there and they're like, "What's going on?" And goes, "Well, we're lighting," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's been like 4 hours."
Aren't you
And it's
dead?
like that wasn't the way it was
Like
on
minutes,
Little.
and they'd be just like back to back, and they go next, moving on. So I go to do this movie in France with the
Uh,
Jean-Pierre Mocky, famous crazy French director, known for being absolutely out of his mind. And I get there, and the other actors and the crew are like worried about me, like you're going to be okay. And they're good. He works a very crazy pace. It's just like insane. He's out of control, and everything too is too fast to because they're French. You have a little
yeah.
coffee, then you have a little wine, then maybe you make a movie, and then you have some more wine. And so, like, I mean, we rolled in around 10, and then they served a meal, and like then we worked, and I was like, okay, there was fine by me. But then when he started, it was like whoosh, this guy was great, and he knew every angle. He would shoot the whole movie in like 9 to 12 days, and then spend a couple months editing, and that's how he made a movie. And he made like go on his IMDb. It's like how many movies is this
Right,
guy's
right.
cranking them out? Um, he, not everybody liked that. And so I get there and we shot a scene. And as soon as it was done, it was like 2 takes. He went, perfect. And of course, he had the advantage of digital and a little monitor, so he could really see it. Didn't have to
Yeah.
wait for dailies. And so he was thrilled with the new technology. He could work faster. So he's like moving on, and the camera crew's scurrying around, and they've got steady cams and stuff. And, this and, that, and they're going, and somebody says, are you okay? And I go, what? I'm fine. What are you talking about? That was great. And they said, but it's terrible. He works so fast. It's so crazy. And I said, apparently none of you have ever worked with Michael Landon. And I thought the pace was totally normal and
Right.
didn't notice that anything was wrong until anybody said anything. Because I was like, yeah, now we do the next scene. Let's go. Yeah. Whole thing took 3 days. I
Yeah.
was in and out.
Well, I was talking to Dean Butler on the Patrick Labber show with Patrick Labyorteaux. The Dean Butler episode is up, and you'll love it. Um, and we were talking about when you're Michael Landon, he was smart enough to know that he was the dude. He wrote, directed, produced, starred in, edited everything. He did everything on the show. So he led by example. He didn't have a big, huge trailer because he was never in the trailer. Nowadays, you get these fifth wheel trailers where people have a whole life in their trailer and it takes them an hour and a half to get out once they've been called to set. And it's like wasted so much time, so that when Michael was showing how to make a movie, that old cowboy version of we're here, let's do it. And then you, as an actor, you always knew you had to. I mean, first of all, kid actors are a little bit different. They're never what's the word? They're never extended the courtesy of having anything but the perfect read as soon as you're on set, especially back then. You were
Yes,
you were
that's
always
it.
supposed to be ready to go. Like, okay,
Machines.
your grandmother died, you're crying, and then you freak out and you try to kill your sister. Action. And then you're supposed to do that and then go back to school. And no one's supposed to, like, you're not supposed to have any time before or after to worry about it. With Michael, he would come on set, he'd tell a joke, say something that would get him canceled today, say action, and then be crying and giving the best performance you've ever seen a foot and a half away from you. And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. He was so good at what he did that he could demand from other people the
Yeah.
reality of what, that fast paced moving. We shot an episode every 5 days. When I did JAG,
Right.
we shot an episode every 10 days. And again, JAG, I think,
Really?
is also another great example of Don Belisario. We did 24 episodes a year. We got stuff done, but it was twice as long.
So it took you 10 days to do a JAG because that's either, I mean,
Yeah.
love JAG. Okay, question I always ask, how many people thought the severed leg was real? Because that was like a thing. Do you still get any of the, is the
CBS had
severed leg real?
yes, CBS released a press a release saying that no, it was not real. And I get it. I mean, I get it, but also, come on. It's sort of
Come
like
on, people.
it's sort of like I once I got braces, I had to get braces as an adult, and they wrote that into the show. And so no one ever questioned that. But when I get my leg blown off, they're like, "I'm so sorry to hear about your leg. I'm so glad they wrote it into the show." And it's like, no, it doesn't.
No.
I didn't lose my leg. Um, but yeah, with JAG, it was 9 to 10 days, depending. And it was here's something really freaky cool. I always love talking to the camera guys because as an actor, if you know your lens size, if you know where you are, that changes your performance as far as I'm concerned, because your energy level has to match the frame size. If you're the smallest person in frame, you got to be energy plus so that you're, noticed. If they're this close on you, then you got to bring it down so you're not scaring the audience. So I'm always talking to the camera guys, and I was talking to Brian, our assistant, and he goes, what do you guys use to shoot Little House? And I go, same camera setup, Panavision, lenses and everything. And you lease the bodies from Panavision and the lenses and everything. He goes, oh, he went to Panavision. He found out that the same body shot Little House, the same camera, literally the same camera
Same
shot
camera.
Little House and shot us on JAG. So it's the same physical camera that Michael and Kenny Hunter and all those guys used on our show. We used on JAG,
You
which is
used
just
part
a
of the
weird.
same camera for 50.
Yeah, he matched the serial numbers, and they have a whole log of like what
That's
cameras
weird.
shot what shows.
Oh my God. All right. So yeah, now you have your own show that I was just on. So how did you finally decide, okay, that's it. I got to have a podcast. I got to have an interview show.
It came about pretty fun where, so a friend of mine who is that friend who is like always like, you should run for president, or you should start an ice cream store, or it's like they just say stuff. She says to me, she goes, you should be on TikTok. And I'm like, I didn't know TikTok. And she goes, it's really easy. You just just get on camera and people will follow you because you're famous. And so I put up a couple of I wanted to advertise the school. And so I put up a couple of my lectures on TikTok, and they, like 30 views, 40 views. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was telling the story about working with a particular actor, and it got 100 views. And so then I told a story about Carol Burnett, and it got like
Mhm.
a lot of views, and it blew up because of Carol Burnett. And I was like, oh, people like stories
Um,
about other actors, right? So I started telling stories about the people that I've worked with, and it started me on this journey on TikTok, and that's where it kind of came about. And then the same person said you should start a podcast and talk to the people that you tell the stories about the stories that you're telling. And I thought, okay, she was right about the first thing. I probably, it's probably a good idea, but it kept percolating in my head, and I kept bugging you. I said, well, how do you do this, and how do you do that, and how do you come about doing this? And then I get a comment from the manager of the rock band Poison. And he goes, because I told a story about my mom was in, my mom, Frances. My mom,
yes.
Frances, was an actress, and she was in the video for the Warrant video, Cherry Pie.
Oh my
She
God. What? How
pie,
do we think what?
cherry pie. And so they had like this old couple as Norman Rockwell's American Splendor, American Beauty, or whatever that one is.
Gothic, American Gothic,
American
the big
Gothic,
four.
American Gothic. And so she was playing the old lady in that. And so I'm telling this story, and that reminded me, oh, I used to take singing lessons, and the guy before me was a horrible singer, but I was always listening to him screeching, and he kept inviting me to come see his band, and I would never go see the band. And the band ended up being Motley Crue, and it ended up being Vince Neil, who couldn't sing, still can't sing, but he's a huge rock star. And so I told these stories, and that I'm an unabashed fan of hair metal. So I get this comment from the manager of Poison, and he says, "Hey, we love your stories about the bands from the 80s. What's your sizes? Can do you want some swag?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but it would be great if I could, interview. I have a podcast and I'd love to interview one of the band members." I didn't have a podcast, but he didn't know.
You made it up. I
I
have a
made it
podcast.
up. Right. And sure enough, he set me up with the drummer, Ricky Rocket, who's awesome. And he gave a great interview. And so now I have this interview with Ricky Rocket for a show that didn't exist. And so I said, okay, I've got to figure this out. And so that was in, I think, May of this year, 24, or last year, being that it's New Year's Eve.
Oh, it's last year.
Uh, and so it took me a while to figure out all the different things. And then I finally put together the Patrick Labber Show with Patrick Labyorteaux. And yes, it's a brand new invention. No one's ever done it before. I talked to my friends and then I put it on the internet and, like people can watch it. And I fell in love with it, as you probably have, because I'm talking to all these people I haven't talked to, and you get to talk about stuff that you don't. It's not like whenever you and I see each other, we're sitting talking about this particular things. In fact, in our conversation, sideways plug to our interview, I learned stuff about you I'd never known before, because it's not stuff that you sit around the set talking about. You're talking about movies or bands or stuff that, you just regularly talk about. So I started this thing. It came across, and it's growing just like the school. It all started. It's all wherever you go. It's on Working Actors School on YouTube is the name of the channel. The name of the show is the Patrick Labber Show with Patrick Labyorteaux. Guaranteed never to be spelled right in any Google search, no matter how you try it. So just search Working Actors School, and it'll take you to the YouTube stuff. And it's a great, fun time. I've got a couple of great people. In fact, this is a great story that you'll appreciate.
And I'm glad you did the plugs, because we're getting to the part where you plug everything, and you just did. So.
Oh, okay, great. And what was amazing is that certainly the people that I work with, and the one thing that I kind of been focusing on is the group that I work with, because I figured it's the only thing that I can offer that's different than what everyone else, yourself, or what is that you're a great interviewer, but like, okay, it's the interaction between people you know. And so I said, well, I know Carol Burnett. I worked with Carol Burnett. I played her son. And I found her publicist's email. And I'm like, on a random Saturday, I figure, well, I'll start the process, find out how many people I have to get turned down by to get, to try to get Carol on the show. I type the publicist, "Hi, I'm Patrick Labyorteaux. I played Carol's son on this Eunice program. Loved working with her. I have this show. Would love to have her on the show." Allison, she responded like in 2 hours, and she says, "Carol's in."
She's Carol.
It was like, I couldn't get over it. So Carol Burnett, if you're watching this on New Year's Eve, Carol Burnett is on the 7th. She came on the show. She is amazing. Obviously, she's Carol Burnett.
She's Carol Burnett, and I'm not surprised, because she's Carol Burnett. She's like Saint Carol Burnett. She's cool.
Right. And what I found so interesting about talking with someone like Carol, who, yes, I've worked with her, but of course we're not in the same strata. It's sort of like, yeah, we worked with Michael Landon, but we didn't drink whiskey with him and hang out. It's not the same thing. But what I learned from her was so amazing was she just like, it's like the thing in Us magazine. She's just like us. She's still worried about performances and if she's going to work again and all these different things. And she's amazing. It was an amazing interview.
All right. We have to, I am running out of time. I know, because it's going to be 2026 if I keep this up. This is so much fun. Okay. So I'll have to come on your show again. You'll come on my show again. I'm trying to think. I actually know a couple of metal people. Maybe I should send them over.
Oh, excellent.
If I know like hairband people, should I send them to you?
I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Oh my God, yes. All right. Well, you've plugged it. The Patrick Labyorteaux Show.
Nope. Patrick Labber Show. Patrick Labber Show with Patrick Labyorteaux. I get my name in there twice.
Twice. Very smart. And the Working Actors.
There we go.
Oh my God. He's got mugs. I don't have mugs. I need mugs. And the Working Actors Acting School.
Yep. Working Actors. Yeah. The Working Actors. What is it called? Yeah. WorkingActorsSchool.com. And we have open classes. Yeah. Classes are open, and it's a pay-as-you-go type of thing. You don't worry about missing classes. It's super easy and so much
Freaking
fun.
great. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming in. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Allison.
And I didn't get to ask about Meth Gator. I have to have you back. All right. All right. Thank you so much. Happy New Year. And I'm Allison Argram, and this is the Allison Argram Show.
I found my way home across the ground.